you can't go back and you can't do things differently. But the same token, you got to appreciate the good things and not have like the bad things overwhelm you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is the Carganilla Online Variety Entertainment Podcast. Leading off, your host, Paul Carganilla.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to COVEpod, the online variety show in which we aim to both entertain and inspire our podcast listeners and YouTube viewers through a wide variety of art forms, including music, poetry, storytelling, special guest interviews, travel blogs, dramatic readings, a whole grab bag, a jambalaya for your entertainment. We are joined today by she's a guest unlike any other we have had before. And I say that because of so many reasons that I'm about to touch on. But we're also joined by a producer who is... he was at the foundation, the core of this YouTube network, but he has never been on this show before, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the podcast for the first time, producer Sam.
How you doing, everybody?
Welcome.
Happy Wednesday, Thursday, wherever you are and however you're listening. It's great to see you. How you doing, Paul?
I'm so good. It's great to see you and hear you. It has been too long. We need to catch up. But, of course, we're here for a very special guest, and I want to waste no time in introducing her. I mentioned she is a guest like no other that we've had before on this podcast. She's actually she's an author. She's a published author, but she's also the first professional model we've ever had on COVEpod. And listen, she's not only a model, but she splashed onto the modeling scene. I think one of her first modeling gigs, I'm not her biography, I don't know for sure, we're going to talk about all of it, but she was a Playboy Centerfold.
There you go.
Miss December 1982. Our guest today is Charlotte Kemp. Everybody give a big warm COVEpod welcome, Charlotte.
Thank you. That was very congenial. Thank you.
Oh, that's
congenial. Nobody's ever called you congenial before. I like that.
I was just saying.
And no one's ever told him to take off his glasses either.
At the request of our special guest tonight, I'm going to take my glasses off.
Yay!
And there we are.
How handsome are you?
Oh,
seriously.
You are so sweet. She's already one of my favorite guests we've had. Trust me, I don't say that to every guest.
Normally, she'd have to take her glasses off to think that you were more handsome. So I still don't know how that's working. Exactly.
But I only have reading glasses, and that's not... You can't do that.
There you go.
So good. Well, it's been a minute since we recorded an episode. Season 2 here of the podcast took an abrupt screeching halt a couple of months ago when we had a family thing come up, and it was totally unexpected, but we're glad to be back on track.
What was the family thing?
Well, my daughter's an actress, and she had a movie that took us away from home. So we lived on the East Coast for the past couple of months, but we're back. We're in the studio. And
how old is your daughter?
She's 10 years old.
10 years old? Seriously?
She's been working since she was 5, so she is a seasoned veteran. Half her life she's been on film. But that's not what we're here to talk about. If you want to hear all about our trip to New Jersey, you can listen to the last audio podcast that I released on Veterans Day. We explained all about our adventures out on the East Coast with that amazing cast and crew. But we're here today
I thought the whole Titanic series was very fascinating.
Which Titanic series?
Didn't you have 4 podcasts with the Titanic with
She's doing her homework. Yeah, so I have another podcast. It's called Titanic Legacy, and that's where I nerd out on
I always do my
everything Titanic. I love that you do your research, but I still haven't even dug into your past yet,
Go ahead.
All right, so she was Miss December 1982. She was on the cover of Playboy in October 1983. Over the next decade, Charlotte did a tremendous amount of modeling and acting. And in 1994, she became the first Playmate ever to receive a license from Playboy. And she founded the Playboy running team, dispelling the myth that Playboy Playmates are only pretty faces and bodies. In 2004, she started her own production company and created a health and fitness video for women over the age of 40 called Beautiful Body, Beautiful Life. Since then, over the past 20 years, she's been traveling, dabbling in photography, poetry, screenwriting, and clearly just...
Wow, that is like the best intro I've ever heard.
Creatively prolific life. And she is clearly a huge personality and a free spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, let's say hello and get to know Charlotte Kemp a little bit better here on the episode. Now, I told you and I warned you that we do this trial
the 60
for every guest.
Yeah. Okay.
Tell us everything we could possibly learn about you in 60 seconds or less. Ready, set, go.
I'm a tall redhead and like your glasses off and like to write.
There you go.
Boom.
9 seconds. That is everything we could possibly.
She's banked 56 seconds for later in case she needs it.
Hey, boom.
She's the whole rest of the episode to talk about it. But we mentioned earlier too, Sam, it's your first time on the show and no one gets an exception here. No one gets a free pass.
No one's not on the firing line. So Sam, buckle up.
Oh, that's not fair. I was here to hear the wonderful conversation between you two.
Yes. And as I mentioned, you were one of the founding members of this YouTube network. We got to hold your feet to the fire and make you do this. 60 seconds, Sam, go.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Hi, my name is Sam. I like long walks on the pier. I learned to use Zoom in 2020. I like watermelon, sparkling water. I live in Tampa, Florida, which is much cheaper than Orange County, California. And yeah,
you're going over the limit now.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to use some of your time. Isn't that why you left the time?
Oh, okay. So you had 56 seconds plus another minute.
It's like press your luck. I'm taking your spins that you didn't do. Big money, no whammies. So
we are cross country here. I'm in Southern California, Charlotte's in Texas, Sam's in Florida, and there are all different levels of tired here on the podcast, but we are just getting started. And I want to hear about the start of Charlotte's. Let's rewind it all the way back to the very beginning. How did you get into modeling?
I think I was like 13 years old, and I guess I was very pretty. I never really looked at myself that way, but then different artists wanted to draw me, wanted to stuff, and I was like, okay. Never was paid. And then when I was 17, a scout found me, and I went to New York, and I signed up with Elite, blah, blah, blah. And then I went to Chicago. I was doing commercials, etc. And at that time, Playboy Models was actually a different entity from Playboy Enterprise. And I did a lot of modeling there. And then my roommate we got drunk and she convinced me to go down and do basically a starting of Playboy. So.
Isn't that how the best stories always start? My roommate, we got drunk and then she convinced me to fill in the blank. But that's how you got into your Playboy Centerfold, I imagine. And so you were living in Chicago, and
I was. My boyfriend there was Gary Fensick, who played for the Bears, and basically, it was like I shot the test shots on Saturday evening. Sunday, they sent a limo. I was at Los Angeles on Sunday, and the first 2 days they got my centerfold, and boom, it was done.
Wow, that's a quick turnaround.
Well, if you read my book, a lot of women had to wait like 3, 4, 10 years actually to get chosen, and there was like 1.3 million women. wanting to be a playmate. There's only 12 a year.
Mhm.
And a lot of these women had to wait for years. And I never knew that. I was like, okay, whatever. But I had really big boobs and I good figure.
So,
That's why I was December. This December playmate is always like stacked.
so you mentioned you started modeling early on. How old were you when you did Playboy the first time?
20.
20.
Almost.
Had you, this is something, and if you know, if any question like crosses the line, let me know, of course. But had you ever done any modeling sans clothes before that?
No,
So how was that
absolutely not.
experience? Was that scary? Was it thrilling? How was that for you?
I was drunk. It was like, okay.
During the shoot? During your Playboy shoot?
That's what she said.
The test shoot.
Right. But so I'm asking about when you're actually there in the studio and they're doing your centerfold spread.
Well, they had everything. I mean, Ken Marcus was the photographer, and everything was set up. I mean, the background production, it was like they had been setting up for weeks. It was beautiful and just like, wow. And no, I was not prepared for it. It was all like a whirlwind. It was like, whoa, you know.
So was it just like a different professional experience or was it awkward and scary?
I was in college. I had no profession. I mean, seriously, it was like awkward and scary, but at the same token, I had people there that really looked after me. And Lance Wenzel was one, and he was from the LA Rams. And he actually sat outside my door and made sure that like these cronies and weird people would not come after me. For some odd reason, he took a shine to me.
The name sounds familiar. Was he involved in like a scandal or something?
Yeah.
Okay. But it was good that he was there to protect you.
But at the time,
And he did.
the gentleman.
Yes.
A total gentleman. He was like protecting me against all these like, weirdos and everything, or cronies in the Playboy Mansion that would, come at you like whatever. You know what I mean?
Sure. I imagine it's like vultures. Did you
Not so much like vultures, but so much like a young woman, and these older men trying to, okay, vultures. I got you.
non-vulture older men trying to prey on younger, beautiful women. So when was the first time you met Hef?
I think the Sunday I got there, and then Monday I met him and we played backgammon, and he was very, very cordial and everything was cool.
Did he hit on you?
No,
Very professional.
that wasn't until later.
Oh, okay. Had to get to know you first. See if you were cool.
He just, was like very cordial and said, Charlotte, welcome, to Playboy and that was like, it's like meeting anyone.
I had the pleasure of going to the mansion, and when I went, it was, I think it's like 2001. It was very old school. There's a lot of preserved charm in the architecture and the decor around. I can imagine in the 80s.
Wow, you're saying this so gay. It was a mansion, and there were two things. You were like decor and seriously? No, it was an old mansion that he bought, and then there was tunnels over to Kim Hefner's. And, Cooper is actually trying to buy the company back from the guys who bought Playboy Enterprise.
But what I'm saying is, when I was there, there was a very like classy old school charm. But when you were there, it was like the heyday. Was it?
It really was. I had so much fun.
Did it feel like another universe you walked onto when you walked onto that property?
Well, once you get over the initial shock, you kind of like, okay, got to find your way here. So you kind of like, get your, uh, you've got to notice things and be aware. And then it was good.
So was it like when you're the Playboy Centerfold for a certain month, you have your photo shoot, and then is there any sort of like reveal party, like red carpet for when the issue comes out? Is there any sort of event for you, or is it just kind of like,
Well,
thanks
yeah.
for the photos?
Oh no, yeah, there absolutely was. And it was all good. I mean, everything. And then I started doing like uh promotions like crazy and everything. And you just learn how to adapt and also what to do and not to do, things like that. But yeah, of course.
What was your favorite room in the Playboy Mansion?
Hmm. Let me think. I think it was the grotto.
That was my
Do you know
favorite
what the
room too.
grotto is?
Yeah, of course. I
Did you go into the grotto?
I did. Well, we
Did
didn't
you
have
get
service.
laid?
No.
Oh,
I wasn't there for a party. I was on a MTV reality show back in the day, and we got to go to the mansion. But
oh, seriously? What MTV reality show?
it's not even worth mentioning.
Oh,
But
come on.
we hung out at the mansion for a minute. There were some playmates there just hanging out during the day. We got to see the spider monkeys in the game room and all the cool stuff. Didn't get to meet half, but um,
You didn't get to meet half, and you were in a reality show there?
right? He
That's
was out of
weird.
town for some function or whatever, but his chef made us lunch. It was nice. But I digress. There's a room with a vibrating floor, if I remember correctly. Like the whole room vibrated.
Well, that was actually the grotto, and then they put in a lower floor, and it had a huge like tanning bed, and the floor vibrated.
This
And it
was
was like
actually
kind of weird. It was like, what?
this was in so there was the mansion, and then there was like a separate building that had like an arcade
Yeah,
and
that was the game room, and then you had the basically other rooms for where you stayed. I mean, there were like four different buildings.
so you have your centerfold December of 1982. Now you're in the Playboy family. What does that mean for you? Do you hang out there a bunch? Do you hang out with a bunch of other Playmate models? Like what how does that affect your life?
Yes, yes, and yes. But it was fun. I mean, I was having a blast. It was so much fun to hang out with like Good Gang Gal, all these different women that were like playmates. And it was like really fun. And we just did all the absurd things. We did whippets and, not good things, but I never did drugs there. But the thing is that it was just fun. Yeah, we played tennis. They had two tennis courts. I mean, there was a lot of stuff to do. And when I started doing so many promotions, and then Miss Budweiser, I left Chicago, moved in to the mansion, had all my clothes stored. When you're 19, 20 years old, you don't really need a lot of stuff. Sorry.
That's okay.
Um, and, went on and did all these promotions, et cetera, et cetera. And then came back and you had all your stuff there. And I just like Kimberly MacArthur, Good Gang Gal, all these girls were like, we just hung out and it was really fun.
Now, you just briefly touched on your Budweiser gig. So I think I read somewhere you were the first Miss Budweiser.
Right. I was the first and only Miss Budweiser, and I did 2 years of that. And I actually went with the Bush family when they, in 83, 84, when they won the championship.
Yeah, that was a big
St.
year for the
Louis.
Cardinals, right?
Yep.
I'm
And yeah, it was great. But I was traveling so much that it's like I didn't need my apartment. It's like, okay, just leave all your stuff. I mean, when you're a young girl, you don't really have that much stuff. So
when my dad listens to or watches this episode, he'll be able to confirm or deny. But I'm pretty sure we had a poster with you on it in a Budweiser swimsuit in my dad's office in the garage when I was growing up. I could be wrong, but what did
that's
being
very cool, by the way.
yeah, what did being Miss Budweiser mean? What did that entail? Like what were your duties?
I had to, like, 35 weeks out of the year, I was on spring breaks, Mexico, Canada, everything, doing, promotional for Budweiser.
So
It's
like
a gig,
running wet t-shirt contests, making
Mm.
people chug beer.
No, I wasn't doing the wet. I would be a judge.
That's what I mean. I like
Yeah, thank
yeah,
you.
running the
Not
game.
that I'm like against it, but that's not what my,
Are
you
you
know,
a beer drinker? Did you like Budweiser?
what happened is that, like, halfway the first year, I was like, everywhere I went, I had to drink Budweiser. And so we like pour out the beer and fill it with water. So it looked like, I was getting drunk, like crazy drunk. I was like, oh, I can't do this. So we just pour out the beer and put water in it.
There you go.
Like a spit bucket. Sam can attest to a movie we made where I was drinking real beer on set, and that quickly became, "Hey guys,
Did
get
you get
Paul some
toasted?
water."
Yeah,
I got a little loose.
by the fourth take, it was time to switch it out and sober him up a little bit. That's for sure. But this sounds like an amazing. I'm just trying to imagine being early 20s. This is the gig. You're paid to do this, and it sounds like such a fun part of your life that most people would just die to have.
It was absolutely wonderful. I mean, and when Amy did that, like the whole -8 series thing, I'm like, okay, the women who said all this stuff, but why did you work for Playboy for 10 years plus if you saw these horrible things? I wanted to put in, yeah, Playboy is like a microcosm, and you stay in there or you don't. And why would you, represent yourself and all of, my Playmate comrades bitterly, and like we look like whores and drug addicted, everything. And I was like, why would you do that? But yet you stayed with Playboy for over 10 years and worked for them. I mean, does that make sense to you?
Things that make you go, right?
Yeah, it's like kind of payback, but the man is dead, so there's no way he can have a rebuttal. I mean, this it's kind of lame, you know.
Yeah.
Now, we were talking about it right before we started the live stream, but you mentioned it a little bit earlier. You obviously turned a lot of these experiences into a book called Centerfolds. And I was telling you, it's like a collector's item now because the only place I could find an actual hard copy of it was on like eBay it's on Amazon. Anybody wants to check it out, it's on Amazon in Kindle form. Centerfolds by Charlotte Kemp. But if you mentioned you're putting out a second printing of it now.
Yeah, this is the second printing. I have more photos in it and different stories. So this is the second printing. God, you look so great without your glasses. You know that?
I'm gonna have
You really are like more handsome.
Sorry, producer Craig and producer Sam. I have a new co-host for these interviews now.
I completely agree. I've been telling you that for 4 years. In fact, I'm half convinced that the glasses are not even necessary. I don't think he has lenses in the glasses.
As much as I love talking about how handsome I am, I want to talk about your book. Tell us about Centerfold, what it is, and how it came to be.
Well, when the book came out the first time, a lot of women, I had been like 20 years. I wanted our stories as, our personal, stories to be put in print. But half was alive, and a lot of women said no, they didn't want to get on the wrong side of half, whatever. So I waited, and 20 years later, when he was like older, but women started opening up and like giving me the raw, real stories. Because at first they were like, kind of like, it was boring. And the stories I have now in this book, and then I'm actually going to do another book, are true. And, they're realistic, and, you know, they're not afraid of being, swayed by half or anything else.
So
So
are they all mostly stories about the Centerfold experience, or
no, they're mostly stories about their being playmates within, their own world. It's like, when they became playmates, when they didn't, it's about their playmate experience, not so much of like in a mansion or anything else. Great pictures, but it's their experience of being a playmate. And I didn't want them to just, put it down as, the mansion or half or anything else. They gave me the whole Monty, which I really appreciate.
can you give us any taste or example of a story we might encounter within the covers of Centerfolds?
Yeah. God, I've got somebody picked out here, so it's like, yeah. Um, Cynthia Myers was in 68, and her actually uncle started Pioneer, you know,
Hmm.
the
Electronics, the audio
yeah,
electronics.
yeah, yeah. And she was with Jay Sebring the night that Sharon Tate, Jay Sebring, everything. She was supposed to be there,
Really?
and she decided not to. It saved her life.
Mhm.
And she talks about her lesbian scene in, you know, uh, Valley of the Dolls and stuff. And there are like really interesting stories that this women, I mean, given the right, incentive, they really open up, and it's awesome.
What was your
Uh,
favorite part of the whole book publishing experience?
The first publisher was an asshole, and that's Kohler Publishing. This guy is like, I don't know. My editor told me he was like by I don't know, whatever that mental thing is. And he would
Oh,
like be
bipolar.
nice. And then yeah, thank you. And then I would call him, he'd be really nice. And I'd call him again, and he would like scream and yell at me. I'm like, whoa, what the, you know, WTF, you know. And they didn't continue the book. They did not help me represent it, anything. And I was like, well, why would you publish this book if you are like on the right side of being right? Republicans, right, right. And I waited.
But what was your most enjoyable experience when publishing the book, getting the book published?
Actually, Cindy Geyer and Cindy Geyer is like, she's been on like 2000 like romance novels on the cover and everything. And she's a great chick. She and I went and did a Barnes and Nobles, and it was really fun. And then we did Huffington Post, and a couple other things that, you know, it was all enjoyable, except for the fact that I wasn't, you know, backed up by Kohler Publishing.
Well, we got a
I know
second
that
printing
sounds
on the
really
way.
negative. I'm sorry.
No,
But
we gotta. I'm. That's why, like, the first printing is basically all collector's items now, because we're not going back to them, but we got a second printing on the way, and I know
oh,
you.
it is in print. So
Wonderful. And I know you did more book publishing, more authoring of books, but you also branched out into film and film production. How did that happen?
Um, I've been a writer since I was like, I learned to read. My sister taught me to read when I was 2 years old. By 3 years old, I was reading J.R. Tolkien, and I was always like a reader and writer.
Oh,
And you know, it just I went back to my roots, you know, and just started writing and trying to be honest about myself and other people and everything. And that's what really sparked the whole Centerfolds book, because I wanted honesty. I wanted these women to be able to tell their stories and not have them diverted, or from Playboy Enterprise, etc. I wanted honest stories. And the pictures are great too.
I can imagine. Yeah.
You bet you can.
how did the transition to being an actress or being a film producer, how did that all come about?
To tell you the truth, I didn't like acting because someone else was telling me their words. And me as a writer, I wanted to improv and say my own words. And so I stopped acting, which to my demise, my manager was really pissed off about it. So, I just went, I want to write my own scripts. I want to have people involved in script writing and be behind the camera and not so much in front. I hated the way that I had to say what they said because I was like, this doesn't make sense, you know?
Sure. I need to talk to the writer about this line before we take this next take here because I'm disagreeing with it. Oh, I totally get you. That's why I write my movies.
That's why you write your own movies, because you don't want to deal with that crap and some
Exactly.
other BS director.
Right.
Yeah.
Look in the mirror if you don't like a line.
That's right.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. So I stopped in front of the camera. I was like, this stuff is BS.
I love when creative types just, follow their heart's fire. And I preach that on this show as much as I possibly can. You live once, do what you love, follow your passions, and see where it leads you. And based on, what I've been able to glean about your life's story online, just from my novice research, is that this has led you down a lot of different roads, and you've also been able to travel a lot throughout your life. And I think I read somewhere that you really enjoy traveling, which is, of course,
I knew when I was 3 years old that one thing, I wanted to travel the world. And I did, and I lived all around the world. The second thing was I wanted to have a child, but not be married. Well, I screwed that one up because I was married 4 times. And the third one was live near water. I'm a water baby. I love water. And, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
well,
I think that's a really good song, too.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. Kind of murky water out there in Texas, but
Galveston, no.
What are your top 3 places in the world where you have been and enjoyed?
London, Singapore, and Adelaide.
The last one?
Adelaide, Australia.
Oh, I've yet to visit Australia.
Jesus, really?
Yes. Yeah, I know I'm failing life. I need to get to Australia. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Either Portugal or Spain, because it's just enjoyable. And I speak Spanish and I speak French, but it's just enjoyable. And I don't have all the for some odd reason they are outside of all the horrible things that are happening. But I just love Spain and I love Portugal. So I love Japan too.
If an 18-year-old model stumbles upon this podcast and is looking for some golden nuggets of advice, what would you give them?
Make sure she has a lawyer. Make sure that a manager, and don't do things just off the cuff. Have someone representing you and having your back is a really good thing. I mean, everyone knows that, but more like within the sex workers and all this stuff that's happening, make sure you have someone, behind your back.
That is in business and in life, I think. Always make sure to surround yourself with good people who with your best interests in mind, and people who can give you their honest advice and you will actually listen to. What's the most awkward situation you've been in modeling?
The first day I was shooting my Centerfold. So I'm standing there and like I was in a corset and everything. And the makeup artist came in and they had to cut my bush. You know what I mean? And I was like going, and I said, don't move. And she had to like cut around and make it like small. I was like, what? I didn't know what to do. I just stood there like, a flying honey. Just like,
They're giving you a haircut downstairs on stage.
That was really, really, really awkward.
Yeah, I would say that's
an excellent answer to that question.
Well, how would you like someone grooming you while you're standing there, like not to move?
I wouldn't.
I'm pretty sure I would not move a muscle. I mean, you like scissors, you're right there. I'm not sneezing. I'm not coughing.
Well, of course you couldn't sneeze or cough, but I couldn't do anything. I was just like, oh my God, what is happening? And she's cutting my bush out. I was really young. I mean, we didn't have, what they do now.
Your life and your career seem to be such a wild adventure. If there was one,
the wild Toad drive,
Toad's Wild Ride, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, yeah. If there was anything you could do differently, would you?
No. Now, I think there are a lot of things that I didn't like, but as you grow older, you appreciate the choices you've made, and you know what? It is what it is. I mean, would you change your life and your choices?
I would not. And I love your answer. I think it's a very refreshing answer. One we don't hear nearly enough.
And
you have to go through life and not regretting stuff. You know what? You made the choices and it's all good, You can't go back and you can't do things differently, but the same token, you got to appreciate the good things and not have like the bad things overwhelm you.
Anyone who's afraid to stretch their wings, try new things, take a risk, what would you tell them?
Go for it. Absolutely go for it. Because you don't, you go through life and you don't have that, the reason to go back. You've got to make your choices, good or bad, but just go for it.
I love that.
Any final thoughts before we say thank you and good night?
Oh, yeah. Don't wear your glasses anymore. But thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And I hope that your co-host gets on more.
Oh, that's very sweet. I have actually purchased the book, the hardcover, Paul. I've got it on the way.
What?
It'll be here. It'll be to Tampa in 2 days. And I cannot wait to get in front of my
autograph. Yeah, of course.
Oh, I would love. Thank you. I didn't even have to ask, Paul.
Oh, sorry.
I get the autograph. You messed up. It all started with.
No, I actually got ahead of you. Sorry.
No, I love it. I'm looking forward to reading it this weekend. Truly,
Sam with the deep pockets, just dropping bombs on eBay to get this book.
No, it's on. Ladies and gentlemen, you too can own your copy of Centerfolds, a collection of stories by Charlotte Kemp, by visiting Amazon Prime and going right to the hardcover, $34.99. The paperback, only $12.99. Paul, you just don't know where to look.
I guess not, because I definitely tried. All I could find was the Kindle version.
But if you go to CBK Media LLC, it has to order and has a button, and it shows like the three different, like Kindle and
paperback and
hard copy.
Hardcover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will do that. And I'm glad Sam told everybody how to get it because I couldn't figure it out. So find that Charlotte Kemp on Amazon or cbkmediallc.com. Next time I'm going to get my hands on that book. It's going to go on my shelf. But next time you're in LA or next time I'm
just
in Texas,
make sure you don't wear the glasses with no lenses.
Okay. I will not wear my glasses with no lenses while I'm reading your book.
You're much more handsome without.
You could just keep saying that for an hour, and that would be a good episode, I think. But
it's true.
Thank you again so much. I know it's so late over there. And ladies and gentlemen, give it up one more time for our guest, Charlotte Kemp.
Thank you very much,
Charlotte. And there she goes.
She was lovely. What an adventure that was.
I loved every minute of it. And that advice about following your heart, doing your thing, and having no regrets in life is really refreshing to hear.
It is so great to be back and rolling after our sudden hiatus. Again, if you want to learn more about that, the new Carganilla adventure, listen to episode 48, wherever you find the audio podcast platforms. There's no video of that one, unfortunately. But, oh gosh, we're off to new exciting adventures. And happy holiday season, everyone. I want to say thank you to our Patreon curators, Angelica Bushweiler, Anna Gia Vola, Charity Swanson, Emily Thatcher, Gina Dobbs, Kelsey Blaine Gibson, Krista King, Meryl Milkey, Sandra Carganilla, Susan Kuhn, and Wendy Walker. Thank you all so much. And thank you to all of our Patreon members for continuing to keep this show going and growing into the new year, 2025. We'll see y'all very soon.
I put the code on her!